What's up guys, welcome to Voicey here. This is your The Halal Guys fanatic host, Captain Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady with a little bonus from r/Today I Fluffed Up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This story's called, You're Applying for a Job? I Thought You Worked Here. Not sure if this really belongs here, since most of these stories are about dealing with entitled lady children who, on top of being illiterate, can't tell one color and style from another. But it still involves me being mistaken for an employee multiple times, so what the hey. Now, normally, I don't like to name the companies I work for, but this was almost 5 years ago, so I don't mind telling you that I used to work for Steak 'n Shake. This was my favorite place to eat when I was a kid, and was always my reward for coming back from the dentist without cavities. My dad's way of limiting how often we ate there. I was so excited to work there, especially since my manager during my first year was so awesome. It went downhill after he left, but that's a different story. The uniform was a white, button-down polo that you had to buy yourself, black slacks, the Steak 'n Shake apron, and a clip-on bow tie. The bow ties came in handy for a cosplay later on, so bonus! Now, I was in and out of homes at the time. I started living with my dad and his awful, now ex-wife, and after I was done putting up with her BS, I went to live with my mother for a while until I could get an apartment close to work. Both lived by a Kroger within walking distance, I don't have a car, and both Krogers had bus stops so I could commute to work. The Kroger uniforms were so different from the Steak 'n Shake uniforms, so it always baffled me every time I went inside to shop a bit before the bus came and people thought I worked there. Winters were a blessing, since I would just leave my coat on as a universal sign of, I don't work here. But people would even stop me at the bus stop and ask why I wasn't working. I just point to the big ol' Steak 'n Shake logo on my apron, and they'd apologize and walk away. This did not stop after I moved into an apartment either. I managed to find something close enough that I could walk to work. And there was a bus stop near the entrance, and a grocery store on the way. Score! This store had a uniform of red polo shirts and the employee's name of either black or tan slacks. I still got mistaken for an employee whenever I would shop there, which at this point was practically every other day since it was easier to carry small loads and I didn't need to worry about wasting gas. The employees were really friendly too and would let me vent about my ever-growing grievances at work. Speaking of which, remember how I said management went downhill after my first year? It got so bad that I had a really bad anxiety attack one night, and almost didn't even get help if not for a registered nurse having been in the dining room at the time and heard me hyperventilating in the back. I'd never had issues with anxiety before that, but from then on, they became more and more frequent to the point that I was having them almost daily. I knew I couldn't go on like this, so I started looking for another job. There were other issues too, but the anxiety tipped the scale. So despite management actually begging me to stay, I was praised as the best drive-thru attendant there because I actually gave a darn. I started looking for another job. After only a few weeks, I managed an interview at my new favorite grocery store. Hey, I already got mistaken for an employee there, might as well make it official. I got in with the support of the greeter who always listened to me vent, and am surprised when I land a second interview immediately after my first, and am told to wait for a different team lead to take me to the back. On the way, he expresses his surprise to see me getting interviewed. Turns out, they wear white shirts in the meat department, and with how often I shop there, he'd always assumed I worked there. Well, at least after that day, he'd no longer be wrong. Sorry if this didn't have any Karens or violations of personal space, but people like that aren't very common where I live. All the issues I'd had at Steak 'n Shake were caused by employees, and rude customers were actually a dime a dozen. I did get approached a lot by Steak 'n Shake customers after leaving, but they just wanted to tell me how much they missed me and refused to go through drive-thru now that there wasn't a caring attendant anymore. And for those wondering, I was at that store for 4 years, and only had 4 anxiety attacks. Only one was caused by an employee, and management always took it seriously. I love that place. It's really sad how common anxiety is because it can really be debilitating, as in it really limits what you can and really are willing to do, you know what I mean? Not that I suffer from it personally, but I know a lot of people who do. This story's called, He Waited in Line for This Ridiculous Flex. I'm an author on a book tour. I'm in a big chain bookstore, sitting at a table with a stack of my books in front of me and beside a 7-foot tall reproduction of my book cover. I'm chatting with someone while signing their book, and there are 3 people in line behind them. It's my first book, so 3 people in line is huge for me. I'm enjoying the hell out of it, and I'm working my hardest to make sure everyone is having a great time. And they mostly are. Mostly. I start to pick up an impatient vibe from the man at the end of the line. He looks kinda huffy, looking around a lot, and keeps trying to make eye contact with me as I'm writing a somewhat lengthy dedication for the person at the front. The front person asks if we can take a photo together. I say of course, because I am so not used to anyone wanting to take a picture with me, and I'm totally an attention hog. This really sets Grumpy Man off. "Really?" he barks. I'm trying my best to not be mad at Grumpy Man, because he's in line to buy my book. Maybe he's had an awful day. Maybe he's late for dinner. Maybe his parking meter ran out 5 minutes ago and he has so many parking tickets that they'll tow his car. Who knows? So I ask the other people in line if it's okay for this gentleman to jump ahead since he seems to be pressed for time, and everyone is cool with it. I motion for him to come up. He plops a bag down on the signing table, pulls out 3 copies of Geddy Lee's Big Book of Bass, and says, "I need to return these." Oh no. I put on my best apologetic smile. "I am so sorry for the confusion," I say, gesturing at my stack of books and the giant sign beside me. "I'm the author of this book and I'm here to sign copies of it today." "Do I look like I care? I need to return these," he shouts. "For sure, I get that," I say. "I just don't know how I can help you. I don't work here. I'm just visiting this store to sign my book." I point towards the cash desk about 20 feet away and say, "I'm sure that the awesome people who work at the store will be happy to help you." "I stood in this line. I need you to help me," he snaps. I'm pretty convinced that he's not listening to me. I'm so sorry about that confusion. It makes sense. There was a line of people, you figured it was a line for the cash, and you stood in it. But it turns out it was a line to get my autograph. The good news is that there's no line at the cash. I point again towards the actual cash. The other people in line are having a great time watching this show, and a few people have come creeping over from the coffee shop attached to the bookstore to get a better view. "Cut out this author BS!" shouts Grumpy Man, "and get me your manager!" I stand up very slowly. I pick up a copy of my book from the stack and flip to the About the Author page. I hold it up beside my face and make the same smirking grin that I'm wearing in the headshot printed in the book. The visual aid seems to have worked because Grumpy Man grabbed his 3 copies of Geddy Lee's Big Book of Bass and toddler stomped his way over to the actual cash. Postscript, I wrote, "Cut out this author BS and get me your manager," below my signature for the people who witnessed this absurd event. Alright, this Redditor is one cool person, to keep their cool after all that. And you know what? I'm hoping that, they got a few extra customers from the coffee shop maybe, because that took composure. This story's called, "Appears I Meet the Requirements." Welcome to Boxmart. I'm the guy in the black scrubs and a lanyard that says, "FBI crime scene, do not cross," attached to a badge with "Not this place" clearly named. Never mind, I'm with my wife and kid. Twice I wander off to grab something we skipped or forgot. Twice randoms ask me where to find things. Frozen veggies, frozen seafood section, both oddly placed in my opinion. Both times, "I'm not too sure, I don't work here, and I try to avoid this place, sorry." And on we go. Now I'm reaching atop the high shelf to get a meal replacement drink because I often need to not feel hunger pain while not having time to properly handle it. I'm reading the label and chatting with wifey about it. Spidey sense fails me. Wife looks up behind me a couple times and I don't register that I've applied for a new job. She tugs my sleeve and clears a path for Karen, saying, "Scooch over babe, I think she needs in." And I move while turning and saying, "Sorry, lost in the label. My application has been accepted. I'm hired and I start my new position 15 seconds ago. I receive a verbal warning for conduct immediately. When you're done messing around, I need you to show me where your irrelevant item is. Your useless kids just point and send me the wrong way." Took about 10 full seconds of blinking, thinking, and checking my outfit to realize all you need is a lanyard of any kind to get a job here. Coincidentally, it takes the same amount of time for a wild Karen to ignore all signs present and become enraged at not having their demands met with groveling. Are you useless too? Let's go. I need a relevant item today. I give wifey a good, solid kiss. She blinks and stares confused. Be back in a sec, beautiful. Be good for mommy, buddy. Kiddo doesn't think much, but wifey catches on. Really? Okay then, have fun. I check my badge again just to see if the ignition kicks on for Karen. Appears to run on steam and the coal fire is heating up. I'm pretty new, but we'll find it right this way, ma'am. She made it down 4 aisles that most definitely wouldn't have what she wanted before mentioning my incompetence. I can't see why they put you in charge. I can't help but agree. I'm right there with you, ma'am. Seems like a major oversight. She follows through pet food, by the fish, and through shoes, but draws the line at electronics. I'm looking for a relevant food item. Why would you take me here? There's no food back here at all. It's been fun, but I'm bored, and she's either gonna get the point shortly or never. Yeah, you're probably right. Maybe we should get someone that works here. Should we try at the register? They can probably call a manager from there. Looks like the at-will employment in my state kicked in. She walked off toward the food, and I haven't received next week's schedule. I'm not hurt though. The pay was terrible. Okay, that read like almost like a 4chan green text almost at some parts, and then I don't know, the writing was weird, but I like this. It's kind of funny. Like, this is sarcasm, the Reddit post. This story is called Today I Fudged Up Drinking with My Family and 4 IRA members in Dublin, not realizing it till things got out of control. Typical disclosure, this happened 5 years ago. The night starts off with some traditional touristy Irish music around Temple Bar and quickly devolves into a well-behaved bender. I couldn't tell you the name of the last bar we stopped at, but it was almost 2 stories underground and it was circus themed. They had a red tent, velvet seats, a stuffed fake bear, and maybe 8 patrons, including the 6 of us. My family is 4, and we had 2 close family friends with us. As a drunk, semi-functional young adult, 24 years old male, it was a swanky, albeit odd, place. And hey, this is the nightcap, so whatever. It was maybe midnight, about 2 hours before closing. So the 2 other patrons leave as 4 young Irish men walk down the stairs. We have some social butterflies in our group of 6, thanks Dad, and so we end up striking up a big conversation between the 10 of us. General pleasantries, really. Where are you from? How long you visiting? That kind of casual stuff. And this goes on for half an hour or so. We're all still drinking. We start to branch out into smaller groups. I cannot simply downplay the size of this circus bar either. It could have easily sat 60 to 80 people, and it's just us 10 and 2 bartenders. So we start splitting up, and the guys sort of do the same. It ends up being family friends, dad, 2 gents, gent at bar going solo, gent, sister, 22, female, mom, and I. And we continue chatting with a gent and drinking, and talking about our trip, plans to go to the Ring of Kerry, Netherlands, Brugge, all the fun stuff. Topic comes up. Hey, so what do you do? A jovial work question. I'm really good at conversation. Sarcasm. Gent explains how he just got out and it is looking to do some work in town for his family. I tell him that sounds cool and what better place than Dublin to work, right? Then I get up to pee. At this point, family friend, a 60-year-old male, ex-staff sergeant, sees me and he, Dad, and I end up heading in together. So we're going, and Dad mentions that these guys are a bit off. At least the 2 he's been chatting up. Tells me one of them just got out of jail and that he keeps talking about how he'd love to go to Boston sometime. Lots of family there. And hey, that's sort of weird. We're from Boston though. Such a coincidence, I tell myself. I leave and start to explore, accompanied by the gent at the bar, who has now decided to rejoin the party. This is where I found the stuffed bear, and we chat about how freaking weird it is to have one in a bar. He shows me his animal tattoo, a bird, and I comment that it looks very cool. As I get back to the main area, the circus tent, I see 2 new people heading up the stairs. Their loss, I suppose. They don't get to drink at the circus bar. Our split groups start to reassemble. Now, maybe it's 1:30, about a half hour from close, and man, things are starting to get weird. The gents ordered a €100 bottle of wine for us all to split, then pour 4 glasses and give Dad a half glass, whatever was left. So we're all chatting, and at this point, I'm confident I'm not going to remember some of the evening. One of the gents asks us if we know Whitey. So there's only one Whitey in Boston, and he's not exactly someone you casually bring up. And now, very drunk me is a bit suspicious. Perhaps you sober folks are well ahead of me now, as was everyone else in my group. That something about these gents is really off. Well, anyway, Dad explains that he doesn't, but that he grew up in Somerville. This seems to fascinate one of the guys. We talk about that for 10 minutes, then my dad heads off to the restroom. So I follow, as I am an acute drunken sleuth who wants to inform the party leader that I have detected something amiss. So we're going again, and I mention that something is off here. Who asks about an Irish mob boss from Boston in Ireland? As I ask the question, family friend walks in. Dad explains to me that these fine gents are actually with/in the Irish Republican Army, and that 3 of them just got out of prison in Northern Ireland, which apparently was revealed in the first hour of chatting with them. And this was the 3rd time they asked about Whitey. Now it clicks. Also, I've just been told the answer. All of the responses that drunk me thought were cheeky weren't really cheeky, and I start playing back all of my missteps. That, "Where are you from? We're from the north," likely was not a Game of Thrones joke. The 2 random folks who walked in, then immediately left, probably saw something was amiss, which Detective Me is just now piecing together, and that we were chatting by the bear, and I told him that his bird tattoo was really awesome looking. It was an eagle. I may have messed up big time. So I'm now ready to get the hell out. And hey, it's closing time, basically. We asked to close the tab. The Irish gents asked my dad to cover the wine we all shared. Separately, the gent I was chatting to about the bear asked us, kids, if we are going to keep drinking. We explain that we're not, and the bar is closing, so we ought to head back now. And I'm beyond blasted. He tells us not to worry about that. The bar will close when they're done drinking, and they aren't done yet. Fortunately, former staff sergeant is not a drunken potato, and gently pulls my sister and I away and pushes us towards the stairs. He quietly mentions, "You need to leave now. There are 2 cabs upstairs." As I'm heading to the staircase, one of the gents stands up and starts loudly confronting the bartenders, explaining they won't be leaving yet and they'll keep drinking. I start climbing the staircase a bit quicker, and 2 yellow-jacketed bouncers are running down. I, not so quickly, step aside, finish my hike up 2 stories of stairs, and get into a cab. I remember nothing about the short ride back to the hotel, but we had a lovely conversation the next night about how freaking stupid I was to miss every single sign. Well, that's definitely a story worth telling. I don't think they were in danger because the dude seemed pretty cool with them, and they were just being all casual, but still, that's interesting, You gotta be more careful, especially if you're getting dookie-faced. Come on. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.